Begin this hour with the U.S. military conducting a second test of an intercontinental ballistic missile just within 1 week of each other. The unarmed Minuteman III missile was launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base in Southern California. And according to the military command, it's sending a message of force to other nations. This latest launch had been reportedly planned for some time, but it took place amid escalating tension on the Korean Peninsula. RT's Alexei Yershevsky joins me now from the RT newsroom with details. Alexei, what details can you give us about this launch?
Well, we're talking here about the intercontinental ballistic missile called Minuteman III. It is able to carry a nuclear charge, although this time we understand it was unarmed. It's one of the pride and joys of the U.S. military, and they insist that the test of this missile had been planned in advance. Now there are videos online, describing this launch and showing how the rocket goes up in the middle of the night. They say it was planned in advance, but there's actually very little question as to the timing of this, but we'll get to this a little bit later. I just want to say that it was launched from the Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. It flew 4,200 miles before splashing down near Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands, where one of the U.S. test fields is located. And as for the timing of it, we do know, of course, that there's a lot of tension now on the Korean Peninsula. And judging by the statement from one of the U.S. military command, in fact, it's Colonel John Moss, head of the Air Force's 30th Space Wing, who said that these Minuteman launches are essential to verify the status of our national nuclear force and to demonstrate our national nuclear capabilities. End of quote. Well, judging by this statement alone, you can figure out where exactly this message was going to. Obviously, this message was going to Pyongyang, and the timing for this could hardly be considered coincidental.
Right. They need a reminding of the force of the U.S. military, apparently. Has there been any reaction from Pyongyang?
Well, Pyongyang has not yet reacted to the latest test, but it's not really hard to figure out what kind of reaction that would be, considering all the saber rattling as of late, considering all the tests that North Korea has held, most of them unsuccessfully. In the past few weeks, even last weekend alone, it reportedly launched a ballistic missile test, but it did not prove to be successful. But there's one very interesting development happening at the Korean Peninsula now. Well, as we know, Pyongyang's biggest ally in the region, and not only ally, but it's also a supplier of energy, water, and pretty much anything you can think of in North Korea, is China. So just on Tuesday, the Central News Agency of North Korea, KCNA, published an op-ed with a commentary saying that a string of absurd and reckless remarks are now heard from China every day only to render the present bad situation tenser. The statement continued by saying that China had better ponder over the grave consequences to be entailed by its reckless act of chopping down the pillar of the Korean-China relations. So you see the language there, reckless act of chopping down the pillar of relations. This is something unheard of in terms of the conversation between Pyongyang and Beijing, and this is something that is a very unexpected development. Of course, in the context of what's going on in the Korean Peninsula, we'll be closely watching where this goes.
We certainly will. Thanks, Alexei.